Hi everybody, can you hear me okay? Can everyone comment in the right hand side? And just make sure it's working. Just wait a few minutes before we get started to let people join us. How's everyone doing today? Hi James. Allow me to quickly get a drink while we let people filter in. Loud and clear, fantastic. Good to hear. Perfect. Just give you all a very quick primer while we wait for people to join us. Today we're going to be talking about the different types of businesses that operate in the tech scene, other organisations that have development teams, the different types of roles and industries that they operate in, and giving people the tools to make an informed choice about the type of organisation they see themselves working in afterwards as well. Help people, I suppose, map out the landscape and decide, what sort of things appeal to them afterwards. Cool. Does anyone know how many people we're expecting today? I have an idea. I just want to make sure what the number I have in my head is the same as everyone else does. What we'll do as well is we'll do a little Q&A at the end as well, so if people have questions about any of the material that we go over today, or just more generally about the tech industry and some of the conversations I've been having with businesses recently. I'll be happy to answer them as well while we're all here. Okay. 23. Okay, cool. Thank you, Jasmine. As I'm sure you can probably all tell, and you've seen from other live streams that you've been part of, there is a little bit of a delay between me talking and you seeing it. So what I'll do is probably have a couple of slides. I'll just pause for about 30 seconds to allow people to ask questions. I encourage people to ask questions at any point in the presentation. Just drop your message in the chat, and I'll answer them all in turn. Appreciate, obviously, it's much easier to ask questions when they're in your head than at the end. Feel free to just drop anything in the chat at any point, and I'll pick it up and answer it in as much detail as I can. Cool. All right, we'll just give it another couple more minutes and let some more people filter in. As I mentioned before, the session exists to talk to you about the different types of opportunities available and companies that hire developers, helping people map out the industry and I suppose make more informed decisions about the type of places they would like to work at going forwards. And the right sort of questions to ask when you do go across to businesses. Cool. Give it another couple of minutes and then we'll get started, okay? How's everyone doing? Are we all enjoying front end? I did the course about 2.5 years ago myself, and remember when I first started doing React, finding it really tricky because obviously it's quite a different design pattern from what you've seen so far. Quite interesting. How are people finding it? Do you want to tune the audio or anything like that just before we start? Not too loud, not too quiet. Can everyone hear me okay? So far, so good. Perfect, Nick. All right. Well, yeah, we'll wait just a couple of minutes. Let's get started. So, yeah, I'll begin by sort of just reintroducing the session very quickly for anyone that missed it before. As I mentioned, it's a session to talk about the different types of opportunities and roles available to people when they finish the course. I guess map out the industry, different types of organisations, what some of the differences are between working in consultancy, um, agency, internal, and also size of organisation as well. You know, some of the pros and cons that come with working in a startup, scale up, and a large corporate as well. So when you do go across companies, you know exactly the sorts of questions that you need to ask and decide whether or not it's going to be a good role for you. Um, cool. Like I said, we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. You know, I'm sure people have lots of questions about the industry and, you know, what sort of roles are currently available and will be further down the line. Yeah, please ask away at the end. And like I said, if people do have questions about any of the material that I'm covering in this session at any point in the presentation, I will pause every couple of slides, give it 30 seconds, and just catch up with any questions that people have asked. Okay, so yeah, feel free to ask away. All right, cool. Well, yeah, thank you for joining me. So yeah, let's get started. Cool. There we go. A little bit too far. Cool. So yeah, as you know, one of the interesting things about running a course such as Northcoders is it is primarily career changes. So we have people coming from a really broad range of industries, really diverse range of people that do this course. So it's important that we also have an equally diverse range of roles and opportunities available to people at the end as well. So we say here, obviously, every hiring partner is unique. Well, yes, so are all the people that do this course. So yeah, I suppose it's giving you the tools to understand and make a more informed choice about what sort of role or position you think is going to be a good fit for you. Um, so yeah, you know, there's no one type of role that's better than others, but there is lots of different types of roles. So yeah, hopefully we'll all start having a slightly better idea about where we see ourselves fitting in after this. Cool. So the slide that I gave you a sneak peek of a moment ago is talking a little bit about some of the statistics last year. They were published probably about just over a month ago now, and they talk about the sort of the range and scope of opportunities available in the North. So as you see, there's well over 1.5 million tech jobs in the UK. This number grew by 40% in the last 2 years and now accounts for nearly 10% of the national workforce. So yeah, tech companies attracted investment across the north at a faster rate than anywhere else in Europe. Yeah, a lot of not just people but companies are relocating to areas such as Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool, Nottingham, York, all these sorts of places, right? For a variety of reasons, obviously that there is skills up here. There is increasingly an existing range of businesses with these personnel in them. You look at sort of Manchester and Leeds. The sort of the tech scene here is it's quite strong, and it's only been getting bigger. And yeah, it's a great area. Not just in terms of taking people on, but also having other companies to collaborate with. As you can see, Manchester is now Europe's fastest growing major tech cluster, with investment growing from 48 million in 2018 to 181 million in 2019. So a lot of companies not just coming up here, but also looking for businesses to invest in up here as well. More and more sort of angel investors and VC funds are looking at Manchester as a viable and exciting alternative to places like London, Berlin, Paris, Amsterdam. So yeah, it's an exciting time to be based in even the North Coast campuses. Cool. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about where we fit into this scene and the different types of roles available. We're going to start talking about size of company. So starting with obviously startups. So we're talking companies with anywhere between 1 to 50 employees, typically going for less than 5 years or very often less than two. Much less of a formal structure in these organisations, and a much more flat management structure, meaning that the person you report into is much less likely to be middle management and someone that's directly either C-level or director. So, for example, you're probably working very close to either the founder, owner, director, CTO, CEO, if you worked in one of these organizations. Um, if you work as a developer, it's unlikely you'll be too specialized in either one language or framework, depending on the business. If it's something like full stack JavaScript, then you'll be a JavaScript developer. But if not, you will be expected to be able to pick up and be familiar with multiple frameworks and languages. Obviously, with that comes the opportunity for lots of learning and I guess adding multiple skills to what you can already do. A lot of this learning will be very informal, and you'll be expected to design this learning plan. So go out, find suitable resources, learn either in your work time or perhaps in your own time, and so I suppose leverage the wider development community to source these materials and ideas. Very often as well, you won't just be writing code, you will be responsible for deployment, architecture, DevOps, and design as well. So, you'll have the opportunity to get exposure and experience the entire software development lifecycle if that's something that's interesting to you. It's unlikely as well you'll be just working as a developer, especially in an early stage startup. There may be some expectation for you to do, as we mentioned, some of the design responsibilities, but also things like marketing, going out and perhaps doing a little bit of business development, standing in front of clients and stakeholders and being able to present and talk about what you've been doing. So if you're quite keen to get involved in more than just one side of the business and have, I suppose, a bit of a say and stake over the direction these things take, it's a good opportunity in that respect. You can also influence not just the wider business, but specific technology choices as well. So, especially not just because of the size, but also because a lot of the code you'll be writing is greenfield. So you're working on fresh projects, fresh ideas. There's not a lot of legacy code that you're dealing with there. You can influence and direct technical decisions that the business makes. So, for example, if you're really keen to use, let's say, Rust or Go to do something, and you can justify the business case for doing that, there's more likely to be a willingness and ability to test those ideas out and make something with them, right? Obviously, with working for a startup, there's going to be less assurance over job security in the company's future. An important question to ask when you do speak to startups is what their runway is. So what we mean by that is how much money do they have to keep the business running under the current conditions. Generally speaking, a lot of businesses will, within the first couple of years, perhaps not turn a profit. So, assuming they didn't rapidly scale up the number of customers that they had, how long could they keep running at the current level? So, obviously, it's important to have an idea about that before you sign any sort of agreement. Not just obviously the training, but also the culture and the onboarding process at these businesses won't be very well defined at this point. There'll be opportunity for you to do that, but it will be very informal. It will be very, I suppose, rough and ready might be one word. And, in terms of managing people's expectations about what that will look like, you will be expected to, I guess, just get on with things and design what that looks like. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunity for progression that comes with doing that, but you will have to be more than just a 9-to-5 developer. There may be long days, there may be additional responsibilities that you're expected to take on as well. Cool, but like I said, with that comes opportunities. So to give you an example of some of the startups that have done some really cool stuff that we work with, you got your likes of Hello Soda, Signup, Aero Cloud, and others. sign up is, I believe it's online learning, resources, training, and it's not quite surveys, but I guess the analytics and machine learning that goes on behind that. So yeah, quite interesting product. They're based in Leeds. I believe they are in the platform office, so same building as we are, and they've taken on a few North Coast graduates. Same with Aerocloud, so that is airport management systems. So they work for a range of airports across the world to basically provide them the software to run everything that an airport needs to do. So things like parking, boarding passes, air traffic control, but also stock for and shops and inventory management as well. Yappy, I believe, does something with pets based on the emoji, and yeah, you can probably guess what some of the others do. I encourage you to make note of all the businesses that you see in this, and just go out and do a little bit of research about them as well. Understand what their story's been, what their product is, and yeah, again, reading about more businesses, will help you make a more informed choice about what looks good to you after the course. Cool. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? I'll just wait about 20, 30 seconds to let people ask anything, and spend a little time answering it, and then we'll move on. Okay. So like I said, we've also got to talk about scale-ups, large corporates, and then we're going to talk about differences between consultancy, agency, and being an internal developer as well. And again, all of these will have examples as well. Cool. People happy for me to move on? People ready? Cool. I mean, I suppose not really much good asking because it's a bit of a delay anyway. So, yeah, like I said, if people do have questions, just drop in the chat, and then I will take regular pauses to have a look at them and answer them in detail. Okay. Cool. So moving on, we've got small to medium enterprise businesses and scale ups. So pretty interchangeable terms. We're talking businesses who probably have more than 20, typically more than 50 employees. Somewhere between those two numbers is pretty common. So yeah, at this point you start having some formal structure to the business. There's things like a management hierarchy, chain of command, different departments as well. So instead of just being an employee, you work within a specific team. Say, for example, as a developer. They'll still be experiencing some of the challenges that come with being in a fast growth business, but there will be more formal structure and policies. So it's likely you'll have a HR person in that business. It's likely as well there'll be more clearly defined training as well. So they'll have some sort of defined onboarding process when you join that organization. They will probably have a training program for you when you join the business. It may be some combination of online learning materials, learning from one of your peers or a more senior developer, and also perhaps budget to attend conferences and talks. There'll be less expectation to wear different hats across departments because you already have people in place to do that stuff, which means you can focus more on the development side of things. There may be some expectation to still do operations and architecture to some degree. But again, at this point, it's likely they'll probably have someone who does DevOps, who does architecture, who's responsible for that side of things. At this point as well, roles start becoming a little bit more defined. So instead of just being a developer, engineer, full stack developer, we are more likely to specialize on things like languages, frameworks, that sort of stuff. So you're all working on front end in React currently. If that's something you're really interested in, at this sort of level, there will be an opportunity to specialize in something like React, or with the example here, we've got Java. The career progression becomes a little bit more defined as well. So if you want to specialize in a specific language or a specific framework, there's going to be opportunities to do that as well. Um, There'll also be similar to when we talk about startups, opportunities for more managerial responsibilities, team leading, defining user requirements, sprints, that sort of stuff as well. So a little bit more flexibility in terms of, sort of what career progression looks like for you as well. Um, there will be some sort of legacy code that you deal with in this organization, be it existing services and products provided by the business, or indeed third-party services or APIs that you're working with. So a bit of an interesting balance. There will be obviously greenfield projects and features that you can work on, but there will also be existing code that you will need to manage, work with, and obviously support as well. Cool. So some examples that we have are, first up, which I believe are insurance, Access Pay, which is a fintech who has taken on a lot of Northcoders. In fact, I think they're one of the first hiring partners that we have. I think most of their development team is actually Northcoders graduates, and they've done some really cool stuff with them. Same with Vivendi, they've got a really good training and development program. One of the reasons they retain as many Northcoders graduates as they do, I think they've taken on somewhere between 10 and 15, and one's left in the last 2.5, 3 years. So really clearly defined training plan. Spare Room, sure we've all heard of Spare Room. Peak is business intelligence and data. And also all do really interesting range of things, and have a lot of cool clients that they work with us as well. Cool. So moving on to the larger organizations and more household names that we'll all have heard of, large corporates. So at this level, you can have very clearly defined roles and responsibilities within the business. You may be coming in to be, let's say, junior Vue developer, junior Angular developer, junior React. It's going to be very language specific and perhaps even framework specific as well. There's going to be a clear hierarchy in the organization as well. So you're going to report into maybe sort of like a senior or lead developer, or maybe even have a mid who manages maybe a team of 2-3 juniors and mentors them, who then sits under a lead, who will sit under a head, who will sit under a CTO. Obviously with that comes a more clearly defined promotion path as well. This will probably be talked through with you, both in an interview and part of an induction process as well. As will a training plan as well. So there'll be really specific, points that you need to hit in terms of going through things like revenue bands. So salaries will probably be very clearly defined in those bands. And in terms of progressing to the next level, either career path, promotions or financial, you will have to have hit those points. So maybe enrolled in some training programs that they're involved in, some e-learning, or worked on a specific team or project for a certain number of time. A lot of these businesses will have multiple projects going on, both across the whole tech team, but also within small departments as well. Will be run as different business units, and very often there'll be opportunity to transition between these different business units as part of your onboarding. So a good example is Barclays, where the first, I think it's either 6 or 12 months in the business, you basically spend a few weeks working in each department, getting a feel for it, understanding how all these different services and features interlock, and then you have the opportunity to decide which one you'd like to specialize in after that time. So it gives you a good awareness operationally what's going on in the business, and also I suppose lets you try different roles, different working different teams, and helping you make a choice about which one you think you're going to fit better in. Cool. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more bureaucracy. There's going to be a lot less flexibility around, being able to bring new ideas and technologies to the table. There is obviously a responsibility to innovate and keep things up to date, but there will be a very specific and probably quite strict process to bring these new ideas on board. Cool. And there'll obviously be a lot of legacy code that you're expected to deal with as well. And again, this isn't just going to be code internal to that organization, but also other services, other companies, and any sort of perhaps code that clients use as well. Let's give some examples of some of the businesses Northcoders work with that are large corporates. You can see quite a few familiar names on there. You perhaps seen some of these people come in and present or walk around the office and talk to some of the students as well. Yeah, you know, a lot of these are very well respected houses for development and have really good training for new employees. In fact, on the beach, we did the Ruby Academy with some of their most recent intake, which went really well. BBC have really good development for juniors. And yeah, like I mentioned the Barclays example before, Moonpig are seeing some really cool stuff up in Manchester as well. I'm just going to wait on this slide for another 30 seconds to a minute, perhaps more. Want some questions? Come on, I'm sure people must have stuff that they want to ask about some of these businesses, and yeah, you know, what our relationship is with them as well. Any questions? I'm sure people must have something on their mind. Cool. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Right. What size businesses tend to hire the most graduates from the course? Nick asks. It depends, really. We generally find the most steady recruitment is probably from your larger organisations, probably just because they have more projects going on at any one time, and they probably also see more of a constant rate of people both going in the door, but also progressing or perhaps going out as well. So you'll generally find your likes of like your Barclays, your Jaguar Land Rovers on the beach will hire people throughout the year. But we generally find SMEs will hire a whole team of people. It's more sort of project led, so that they'll have a new feature that they're rolling out, or maybe like a new platform that they're supporting, and they will make 4+ hires in one go. I think the most we've had is 8. I think that was Access Pay. So it really depends. Throughout the year, it probably works out roughly the same. But yeah, we'll generally find perhaps every. So it's not strictly true. We've got some businesses that will hire every 12 weeks, and it's hire a pretty significant number. But yeah, generally, the larger organisations, it will be a steady drip in. SMEs, you'll generally see larger project-led hiring. But yeah, it's generally those two size businesses that make up the majority of the hiring. When we work with startups, I suppose we have a duty of care to our community that any role that we ask you to interview for, we've done some due diligence on the organisation in terms of, like we mentioned before, runway, so capital, but also training the support that you're going to get on that role. The last thing we want is someone to go into a company where they're not going to have any support and feel quite isolated. So, yeah, it's not a good experience for anyone, right, as part of that. So, yeah, good question. Can we get a list of these companies at the end if possible? Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of these businesses you see are on the website. So, a lot of these logos will already be on there. I'll cycle through the slides again and, sort of encourage people to take a look at them. What I'd suggest as well is going to be a good exercise for a lot of you is go on LinkedIn, have a look at people whose past companies are down as Northcoders and just see where they're working now. A lot of these companies will be on there, but there'll be a lot more as well that aren't on there as well. So, yeah, go out and do a little bit of research on them as well. Do you find a lot of opportunities to graduates at these larger businesses or often smaller ones? It's a good question, Sam. I would say, sort of, and based on the sort of answer I gave you previously, we generally will always make sure that a business has a certain level of structure in place already. There is some sort of lead developer or CTO who can provide support and training to employees that have been taken on board already. Um, and obviously, what we try and do is get an understanding of our business's culture as well. So I generally say we probably uh, work more closely with SME and large corporates, but it takes all sorts, right? And like I said, we have a very broad, diverse range of people that come onto this course as well. A lot of people that can bring additional skills to the table besides just being a developer, who perhaps are looking for an organisation where they can, I suppose, stamp their um, influence and experience on a little bit more. And perhaps they're looking for a business where it's not just a take-home salary. There's also maybe a stake in the organisation that they're looking to potentially get and grow as well. So it varies, but yeah, generally speaking, it is probably slightly more skewed towards the SME and corporate side. And Hannah asked, what are the differences between each types of business in terms of what they look for from graduates? Very good question. Generally speaking, the larger the company, the more of a formal graduate program that they'll have. So the expectation is, I'm not going to say lower, it is right, but there's going to be less assumed knowledge or perhaps requirement for other skills that you need to bring to the table. Like I was saying, with startups, it's very unlikely that you'll be just a developer. You might need to do some sort of client-facing presentation, design, marketing. So yeah, there'd probably be more expectation for someone that is not just capable of, but also comfortable and enjoys wearing multiple hats. If you're the sort of person who maybe really just wants to specialize in being a developer, SME corporate is going to be the way to go. Or maybe you're someone that is more comfortable having a clearly defined progression and training plan in place. A large corporate is going to be a better fit. If you're the sort of person who enjoys exploring other technologies and ideas in your own time, and want to be able to bring things to the table and new ideas and have some degree of influence over languages and technologies that business uses, an SME would be a good fit. Cool. All really good questions. I'm going to continue, but people can feel free to keep asking questions in there, and yeah, we'll stop again shortly, and I'll go through them again. Okay. But yeah, thank you. Cool. So moving on, as I mentioned at the start, we're going to talk about what the differences are between working agency, consultancy, and as an internal software developer. Cool. So starting with agencies. So the way agencies work is they'll basically go to other businesses and pitch for work. So basically, I suppose, a contract where they will support the existing development team and add to any capacity that company has, if at all. A lot of companies maybe whose bread and butter and their main product is software development, may just completely outsource that work. So you'll be working with a wide range of different clients across products and potentially industries as well. It's generally sort of campaign or product led. So you won't be on like a long-term contract or retainer with these businesses, but it may be in order to get something out the door by a certain date that it's due to be delivered by, or just basically, once that product is there, and then maybe sort of a smaller team in your organization will provide long-term support for it. As I mentioned, you might be working alongside an in-house tech team or just delivering projects totally. It's typically remote or in the office, so not on client site, but there is exceptions. Agencies will generally specialize in something as well. So, for example, you might be working for a .NET agency, or you might be working for what they call like a full service agency. So you do the marketing, design, web development, or design, mobile, that sort of stuff. So yeah, you'll have I suppose, a unique selling point to your business, and you'll specialize in that. But yeah, that's not to say that there won't be different teams that use different technologies, languages within that agency itself. There may be some expectations to do client-facing presentations. If you are working in an in-house or alongside an in-house tech team, rather, there will be an expectation as well to be part of stand-ups and reviews as well. Cool. So to give you an example of some of the agencies that we work with, so we've got Degree 53, who are a web and mobile development agency. I think a lot of their clients are gambling and gaming. I think they were originally spun out of one of the gambling houses in Manchester. They have diversified their client and portfolio since then. Very well regarded in Manchester for the quality of the work that they do. Padme, who I think some of you may have seen present, specialise in mobile development. They work out of Salford and have done some really cool stuff with the BBC and a lot of other companies out there. Again, very well regarded business in Manchester. Silverchip specialise in, I think it's .NET, but they've recently expanded out to do some stuff with JavaScript and React. In fact, one of the guys that I did the bootcamp with about 2.5 years ago now actually went on to work for Silverchip after the course and basically did some training with their team in JavaScript and React. So they have an interesting range, but yeah, it's generally .NET, C#. In Technica are machine learning, and I think Isotone and cloud services. Cool. So again, just going to leave on the screen for a sec. I encourage you to do a little bit of research about these businesses. Someone asked which size businesses tend to hire the most graduates from the course earlier, and at Padme, hired quite a few people from the course, and they have a really good training program there as well. Cool. So again, yeah, just take some notes, have a look at these businesses, as well as, not just seeing whether or not, these companies have roles available. It's going to give you an opportunity to, again, learn a little bit more about them, what they specialise in, look at some of the work that they've done. They generally have like portfolio pages on their website, and I guess help you map out the industry. Cool. All right. So yeah, moving on, we've got consultancies. So consultancies are very similar to agencies. But it's more than just the technical work that they do. So they'll generally come in and provide, I suppose, coaching, advice, expertise on an area or group of technologies. So generally, they'll specialize in something very similar to agencies, but what it will be is, say, for example, agile or automation or digital transformation. So you'll go in and yes, you'll be writing code and working very closely alongside developers, but there'll also be people in your team that will be helping implement new ideas and ways of working in that organization. So you'll be working a lot closer alongside the existing team there. More often than not, obviously, yeah, now is probably the exception, but you'll be working on site with clients very closely with them, especially if it is digital transformation. There will be travel that you'll be expected to do as part of this role. A lot of consultancies have different offices and satellite offices across the country. There may be opportunities and requests to move around between these offices. You might be asked to swap projects at a moment's notice as well. So just as quickly as a project starts, it can also end. I know I've got a couple of friends that work at consultancies. They've been asked, okay, can you start working in Bristol for 3 months starting next week? So there's a lot of opportunities for travel, a lot of opportunities for progression and career growth. But you've also got to be sort of person that enjoys traveling. There will be some expectations to do client-facing presentations to be able to feedback information and knowledge to that organisation, but also, I suppose, present the work that you've been doing there as well. So to give you examples of some of the consultancies that we work with, you may be familiar with some of these organisations. So ThoughtWorks Digital Transformation, that's what they specialise in. They work with a lot of public sector companies and basically come in and, I suppose, help improve the way that they do things. They use a lot of Java just because of the size and nature of the businesses that they work with, but they are open and do use other languages as well. They've got a really good training program to help people do that. And digital, if I remember, with .NET specialists. InfinityWorks are, I'm sure, again, people might have heard of them. They've got a very big presence in Leeds and increasingly Manchester as well. And Equal Experts are based in Federation House, which is where we used to be, certainly the Manchester offices. I believe their unique selling point to their clients is everyone that works there has a certain number of years worth of experience, hence experts. Cool. So the final slide that we've not covered, but is a lot of businesses that we saw earlier. So when you're working internally in a software development team, so you're just working for one company and you're specializing in their product. So if you want much more of a deep dive into their products, what they do, and how how a product goes from an idea inception to hitting the market at the end. It's a good fit in that respect. But yeah, there's a lot less exposure to different products, ideas, and tech stacks as well. So yeah, depends on what you're looking for really from that role. Cool. What questions people have? Just wait a few seconds on this slide, and then I'll probably just quickly cycle through some of the slides that have the different businesses on again while I answer some questions. And again, this can be about the presentation. It can just be more, maybe just questions people have more generally about the industry, all that sort of stuff. I'm happy to answer anything while you've got me, okay? In terms of what we'll be doing over the next few weeks, you'll be having a CV workshop coming up in project phase, where we'll sort of talk about how to write a great developer CV, put a portfolio on there, and demonstrate your skills and abilities to two companies. And we'll also do an interview prep workshop with you as well. We'll review those CVs and give you feedback on them as well. And then you'll also have access to the Northcoders job board as well. Cool. Like I said, just answer some questions. I will just work through these slides as we talk as well. Cool. Here we go. A few coming through. How common is it to be hired for a job of languages other than JavaScript? Good question. This is something we track and generally fluctuates a tiny bit, but pretty much stays around a third. So about a third of all Northcoders graduates will get a job specifically with JavaScript. Like I said, I mentioned Java earlier. Manchester and Leeds, a lot of the bigger companies seem to use Java or .NET. For backend, there is some sort of front-end frameworks as well where we can write Java code and they run. It's a minority. Generally speaking, a lot of these companies will probably have a JavaScript team. It's very much not just companies that use the exact stack that we work with. And we have materials and stuff that can help people transition over to other languages. And a lot of the work that we do when we sit down and talk to businesses is, I suppose, helping them understand the ability our students have to transition over to other languages. And that's one of the things that we obviously encourage people to be able to demonstrate during project phase, your ability to pick up new frameworks, new languages, and make a minimum viable product with them in quite a short space of time. But yeah, I would say more often people will go away and learn new languages and frameworks than not. Cool. Sam says the obvious one is what sort of effect is the current lockdown having on hiring specifically? A lot of people are working from home, obviously, but are companies hiring people to start from home too? It's a very good question, and just about once you think you've seen the pattern and you've got the idea, it changes a little bit. We're generally finding that small businesses seem to be the most agile and seem to have dealt with it the most efficiently. Some of these businesses we've noticed are looking to have people even on freelance or a fixed term contract basis as long as this goes on, and then potentially offer people a permanent role at the end of that. So I suppose almost like a scaled down version where the person is taken on just to focus on one feature or one product and deliver on that. Makes it much easier to train someone up or just let someone get on with stuff and be a valuable and effective member of that team while working remotely, and then offer them a permanent role at the end. That being said though, companies are still offering permanent roles. I was speaking to Tote this week, who will be doing one of the hiring partner presentations next week, who are still looking to take people on in May in a permanent capacity to start remote. It really depends on the business. A lot of organisations who were maybe a little bit more old school and traditional, who didn't really encourage remote working, have, as I'm sure you can all imagine, struggled a little bit adapting, and are still going through some sort of growing pains. We generally sort of see as well agencies seem to be struggling a little bit as well. A lot of agencies have done quite well in sticking existing clients, but are, as I'm sure you can probably all guess and imagine, struggling to bring on new companies and clients. So it really depends on the business. People are still hiring permanently. We've had people who've been hired this week on a permanent basis. Some companies, I'll just quickly switch slides while we're doing that, have basically said, okay, we're going to offer you a role, but we're only going to start when we're all back in the office and we can actually onboard you properly. So it really depends on the business. What I would suggest, though, is being open to fixed-term contract and freelance roles at this point in time, because I anticipate more of them will come to the market, and it's something to have on your CV, help pay the bills, so that when normality does start returning further down the road, you have something to talk about as well. Cool. Hope that answers your question, Sam. Nick says, it seems like frequent job hopping is less frowned upon in the tech industry. Is that the case? Yeah, I mean, the average time someone stays in a job as a developer is about 12 months. With that being said, though, I can imagine, the immediate impact now and going forwards as well from COVID-19 is people may start reevaluating that. You can be sure that, anyone that obviously started the job after whatever the date was in February is obviously in a very tricky position, not being able to be furloughed. And I would imagine people would obviously, anyone that has been kept on or has been furloughed or supported by their business while not having work to do over the next few months, you would imagine would probably appreciate the loyalty and support that business is showing over that time. A lot of companies are looking at ways they can invest in their employees' training while they are furloughed. I mean, traditionally, yeah, people did job hop quite a bit. It's a combination of, I suppose, looking for like salary growth, but also tech companies historically haven't been the best in providing. That's not true. Some tech companies haven't been the best in providing training and career progression for people, and it is one of the things companies are getting a lot better at as well. Cool. Yeah, it's very tough to say what it's going to look like coming out of this. I'm speculating, but yeah, traditionally, people, yeah, like I said, the average time someone's been in a job is about 12 months. A lot of companies are a lot better at keeping people than others. Like I said, it's generally the people that have good training and personal development. And I would encourage you, when you do talk to a business, to ask those questions, because not only does it benefit you and help you decide a good company for you, it also demonstrates that you are exactly the sort of employee that is, sort of thinking more forward and more long-term about that role. It's going to help distinguish you and set you apart when interviewing. Jasmine, I still took a fixed-term contract and didn't renew it, / we get laid off. Would you still offer us job support afterwards? I mean, it's one of them where you are still a member of the Northcoders community. The rule that we generally take is if you end up joining a permanent role, and we obviously supported you with that, we have a duty of care to the rest of our Northcoders community, but also to not the hiring partner, but other Northcoders employees who are working at that hiring partner that isn't seen that we look like we're poaching people. I mean, we would have no financial reason to do so. Any of the career support that we provide to students and networking that we do in terms of introducing you to hiring partners is completely free of charge. But yeah, no, we appreciate it's a completely unprecedented time. If companies are asking us for people, and maybe they need someone with a little bit of industry experience or something like that, we're more than happy to obviously make those connections. As I'm sure you can imagine, if people do start coming back more and more from fixed-term contracts, freelance roles, all that sort of stuff, and they're looking for jobs, there is only so much support that we can do, just purely because the requirement and the need of all the people currently looking isn't going to go away. But yeah, if there is something we can do to help, we're here. You've got our contact details. You are part of the Northcoders community. We're happy to do whatever we can to help. Hannah says, "What can we do to improve our employability in the current situation?" It's a good question. The two main things I would suggest is just keep coding, keep making things, keep actually putting it on GitHub and updating your CV and portfolio. Um, I've spoken to a couple of people this last week who they've been saying that, oh yeah, I've been coding, I've been doing stuff. And it's like, okay, great, let's see. It's like, oh, it's not on GitHub. Well, it's like, from the point of view of an employer, if you've got this time where you're at home to make stuff and continue learning, and you're not showcasing that you've actually done that, how do they know that you are doing that, right? So keep coding, keep everything that you are doing online so people can see your work. At the end of the day, you're going as a junior developer. People aren't expecting you, products and projects that you're working on to be the finished article, right? What they're looking for is the right approach. So how do you break down problems? How do you approach solving them? Are you, using Git effectively? Are you showing and demonstrating good version control practices? And just keep applying to stuff. It's a numbers game, right? And it's obviously a little bit trickier at this point in time. I'll just jump down a couple of slides. But yeah, companies are still hiring. We've put jobs on the internal job boards, this week. Like I said, we've got the tote one to go live on there as well. People have got hired in the last week, Northcoders graduates. But you just got to keep at it. Like the worst thing you can do is just stop applying to stuff. If you don't apply to anything or you get disheartened because a couple of companies rejected you, well, you need to get out there. You're only going to get better at the process by speaking to more companies. We are finding a lot of businesses are, finally getting to a point where they have adapted and adjusted to the remote working situation. Any requirement they had for developers before probably hasn't gone away. And they are looking, at how they can hire and onboard these people, or perhaps line them up for when the lockdown does end. So yeah, just keep coding and just keep looking at stuff, And I would suggest go directly to companies as well. You can guarantee that businesses are looking to cut expenditure. So any sort of recruitment fees recruiters are going to charge, it's just not going to be an option at this point in time. So like I said, have a look at these businesses, have a look at their websites. They'll all have careers pages. The same goes for other tech companies. And apply directly to them. You're always going to be in a much better position if you do that. Cool. Any other questions? Cool. I'll just give it another few seconds. So I'm obviously available on Slack. I'll be getting in touch with you all over the next couple of weeks. Like I said, we'll be doing the CV workshop. I'll be doing one-to-ones with you to get to know you all a little bit more, provide some more bespoke advice to people, give you some feedback on your CVs. You can have my contact details. If anyone does have any questions, it doesn't just have to be about hiring partners, but just about the industry in general, maybe companies that you've come across and you want to know a little bit more about them. Or maybe be introduced to someone who works as a Northcoders graduate already, or has put a good word in for you. Let us know. More than happy to help, and just do whatever we can to obviously help people get into positions. Before we go, Bentley says, if we specifically like a company, would it be worth contacting them before the end of the course? It's one of those where if you feel like you're in a position where you're ready to apply, you have examples of your code to send to these people. I would suggest, especially if they're not a hiring partner, you're not going to lose anything by applying to them. What I would suggest, and like I said, we are going to do a CV workshop very soon. But just talk about Northcoders, have examples of your code, and make sure they're on the front page, and have a link to your GitHub profile, right? Make it as easy as possible for people to find examples of that code, and don't make any assumptions that people reading your CV know what Northcoders is, right? And the skills that you've learned here, right? We obviously work and interact with a lot of different people in companies. There's no guarantee that the first person who sees your CV, it might be a recruitment or HR person, has ever heard of Northcoders before. So it's unlikely that they haven't. But yeah, don't make any assumptions whether that they know what a boot camp is, they know what Northcoders is, and they know the skills that you've learned here. But yeah, similarly, if you've seen a role band that you think is a good fit for you, you lose nothing by going out and speaking to them, right? Gareth asks, has would Northcoders support new startups and graduating cohorts? Is this startup ideas that companies have? I mean, it's something that people have gone away and done. Yeah, for sure. If you have an idea and you want to get together and work with some Northcoders graduates on that, that's something we'd be more than happy to obviously help with and support in any way we can. Like we saw, there is startups where other Northcoders graduates have gone on to work at, and I can say sort of from secondhand experience of knowing people that have gone on to do exactly that. They've done some really exciting stuff with those businesses, and brought some really cool features and ideas to the table, and been very successful out of it as well. So yeah, for the right person, there is definitely opportunities to do that. Just ask, will you be looking after all of us, or will Lucy be looking after us Leeds lot? So Lucy is going to be the primary point of contact for Leeds graduates. She is based over there, knows the industry and the companies there much better than I do. However, there will be some overlap between us all, as I'm sure you can all imagine why people are working remotely. Geography doesn't have as big a impact on where people are currently applying. And like I said, a lot of these remote gigs that people are picking up at the moment, we are opening up to people on both sides, So yeah, I'm sure you'll have interaction and experience with both of us. If you have a question about a company that is based specifically in Leeds, Lucy is probably the best person to speak to. Same goes, for this company in Manchester. I will be. Cool. All right. Perfect. Well, yeah. Like I said, if people do have any more questions, I'm available on Slack. Let me know, and I'll be happy to go through in a little more detail with you. Okay. Thank you for your time, everyone, and I look forward to getting to know you all a little bit better. Like I said, doing the CV workshop and one-to-ones as well. Okay. Cool. Thank you for your time. Have a lovely long bank holiday weekend. Okay. Cheers, everyone. Bye.